is the timing right? It wasn't quite right on my part, but I thought, God, I let this man go twice, and you brought him back to me. I got to see what this is about.
Love stories fill us with joy and inspire hope for the future. And a true life romance can remind us that sometimes just one spark is all it takes to change everything. Welcome to Unexpected Love Stories. I'm your host, Dawn Lawson. No, I'm not. I haven't been Dawn Lawson for 32 years.
That
Okay.
is good. Where did that come from? It's really cute.
I have no idea. All right, let's try that one again. Welcome to Unexpected Love Stories. I'm your host, Dawn Prushkovsky. Today we have a special guest to share her beautiful love story. Amanda Lakich was a teacher for 14 years. In fact, she helped found a charter school in Arizona. She's a world traveler, she's a crafter extraordinaire, and one of the most loving and giving people I know. You're going to recognize her as the beautiful face of our Unexpected Love Stories logo. Friends, Amanda's story has a lot of plot twists, but I promised it's going to ignite a belief in perfect timing and true love. Amanda, it is so good to have you here on the show today. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing your unexpected journey with Joey. We can't wait to hear it all. So let's start at the beginning.
Well, hi, Dawn, and thank you very much
Hi.
for having me. And plot twists, to say the least, right? And the
Hmm.
moral of the story is timing is everything. And I'm happy to share this story because I think it's a heartfelt one. And
Hmm.
when God wants you to have something in your life, it will happen. So
Hmm.
let's get started.
Yep. And it might not always be on your time.
No, it's typically not. Yeah, typically not. So,
Mm. Okay, so how did you meet Joey?
well, Joey and I have a long history. We've recently celebrated our second year wedding anniversary. However,
Ooh.
we went to high school together up in Northern
Hmm.
California, and we're friends for our sophomore year. That's when he caught my eye. Our junior year, we dated the entire year. And then senior year, I'm not sure what happened, but poof, he was gone out of my life, as far as being my boyfriend. But we
Hmm.
were still in the same friend group, so we still had communication. And then college years came and other lives came, but here we are. So um,
Hmm.
it stemmed back from when we were 15. And as I said, we dated our junior year, and he was definitely a different person back then than he is now.
Hmm.
Um, Total teenage boy, just non-communicative, and the friends always came first, uh,
Hmm.
which was hard as a female because we seem to be so in tune with everything and it's so sensitive. But we would go out with friends. We would go to the park. We would go to movies. We used to go out of town as a group of friends to another
Uh-huh.
friend's family's cabin. So we spent like our entire junior year together when we weren't in school. It was a really good time. He played football and I was a cheerleader. So that was a lot of fun. I'll
Hmm.
keep my eye on him. But yeah, we did break up towards the end of our junior year, and something pretty traumatic had happened, and we got pregnant,
Hmm.
and I wasn't ready. I don't think he was ready. Um,
Hmm.
Maybe I just didn't give him the choice. I could never have told my family about this. I was college bound. I was embarrassed. So I did decide to terminate the pregnancy, and Joey was very supportive as physically being there during the
Hmm.
appointment, But as I recall, after the appointment, he just kind of vanished from my life, just kind of ghosted. And it
Mm.
really hurt. It really hurt me.
Yeah.
But I was dealing with all sorts of emotions and hormones at that
Mhm.
time. So, we survived it, and we were cordial to one another and dated other people our senior year. Um,
Mhm.
but we never had a conversation after that traumatic experience. And,
Mhm.
I think I just thought that was kind of normal because my parents, though I know they communicate and they still communicate, they're still together.
Mhm.
However, my sister and I never saw them communicating, so I think I thought that
Oh.
was kind of normal. You just didn't talk
Mhm.
about that stuff. So I just brushed it under the rug and went on with our life. He and I stayed in town and went to community college and saw
Mhm.
each other every so often and, said our hellos and how are yous. It wasn't
And
until
how would you feel when you would see him?
my heart would flutter. My heart would flutter, and, um, I wanted just to chase him down and
Mhm.
get him back in my life,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was so afraid of the rejection because I felt like I
Mhm.
was ultimately rejected that
Yes.
initial time, so I just couldn't allow myself to do that. Whew. So then skipping forward to our junior year in college, I had moved to Southern
Mhm.
California, and he was in town going to state college, and we started talking again, and I thought, "Well, go figure."
Mhm.
I'm 400 miles away, but hey, let's try and talk now. So we started talking again, and I felt all those initial feelings coming rushing back, and I felt really vulnerable to be honest,
Mhm.
because I thought, here we go. He's like, I feel like he's taking my power in a sense because my heart
Yes.
was so involved. He was my first and only true love up until that point.
Mhm.
So we started chatting again and making plans to see each other. And I was home for a holiday, and my girlfriend and I
Mhm.
were at a restaurant, and we saw him and her boyfriend at the time across the restaurant. So we went over there to say hello, and
Mhm.
the hostess came over and started just staring us down, up and down, my girlfriend and I, and we're like, "We don't know who this is," and the guys got real awkward, and we thought, "Okay, well, we'll talk to you guys later." So we went back to our booth, and we were chatting it up like, "What was that? Do you know her?" "No, I don't know her." "Well, I don't know her either." Weeks later, I found out that he was also had just started dating her, and so
Oh.
I was a little bit crushed there, so I,
Mm.
got out my word processor when I was back down in school and typed him this 3-page love letter and sent it to his apartment
Mm.
and never heard from him
Mhm.
again. Like, that was it. And so my best friend had to, coddle me while I was mourning that heartbreak again. I know. And I thought, okay, Amanda, this is it. Like, we're not doing this again. We've done it twice, and the results were not what you wanted. So,
Mhm.
um, fast forward a little bit. I told you there's a
So,
lot of
I was gonna say it's like,
it,
how do I
it
protect my heart? You
Well, I
know?
needed to protect my heart. So,
Yeah.
I spent time healing from that. And fortunately or unfortunately, because he was still part of our friend group, my roommate
Mhm.
slash best friend was still dating one of his best friends. And my sister was getting married to one of his best friends.
Oh.
Yeah. So he was still in our circle.
Mhm.
Had a good relationship with my father, and he would still see him on occasion, and, of course, my dad would be the first one to tell me, "Oh, Joey stopped by," and I'm like,
I don't
"What?
wanna hear this.
This is not this is not what why am I being tortured?" I felt like I was
It's
being
just not
tortured.
fair.
It wasn't
Yeah.
fair. I felt like an outcast because my friends and my girlfriend was dating his friends, and my sister now is in the circle, and I'm just like, here's Amanda." Well, then Joey and his current girlfriend, they they got pregnant, and he was going to marry her because he felt that was the right
Mhm.
thing to do. And as crushed as I was,
Mhm.
I understood. I respected his decision and
Mhm.
his loyalty, for that. So they they got married and had a baby, started a family, and we lost touch, except for when they would get together with my sister and her new husband and their new baby. So
Yeah.
again, I heard through the grapevine where he was working, where he was living. He'd moved around a bunch, ended up moving out
Mhm.
of state. And that was that. Life went on. I had fallen in love and gotten married and tried to have children, but wasn't able to. And then got
Mhm.
divorced and then fell in love again, which I thought was love. And I got married again. All this time, why Joey is married and now has 3 daughters. So I just thought,
Mhm.
okay, well, this is our life path. It wasn't meant to be. Um, but at the end of my second marriage, I spent a lot of soul searching and praying to God that, you know, my path would just open up and be much more clear because
Mhm.
I've been in on some rocky roads the past 2
Mhm.
decades, and I thought, "Please just send me somebody that is gonna love me for who I am, understands me, I feel comfortable with, I'm confident around," and so
Mhm.
forth, and at this point, Joey and I had been on Facebook for about 6 years, um,
Mhm.
as friends, so we could see each other's stuff, but we never chatted, we never communicated. I see he was traveling a bunch for work. I saw pictures of his gorgeous girls. I had heard he had been, his divorce was finalized, and I thought, "Oh, okay."
Mm.
So, after 6 years of being on Facebook, I had gotten a Facebook message from him saying he was gonna be in town for work, and I'm living in Las Vegas, Nevada at this time. Um, and he was going to be in town for work on a Monday, and he was flying in on a Sunday and wanted to see if I would be interested in getting together and having lunch and catching up.
Mhm.
And
Ooh.
yeah, I thought,
Do I
timing.
trust this again?
Do I
Yeah.
trust this again? Is the timing right? It wasn't quite right on my part, but I thought, God, I let this man go twice, and
Mhm.
you brought him back to me. I
Mhm.
got to see what this is about. We are
Mhm.
different people now. It's been 28 years since I had seen
But
him.
you're married at this time.
I am married. I am married, and
It was tell me, was could not have been
well,
a
things were not.
fulfilling marriage if
No, it wasn't. Things were not going well. This was in August, and the turn of that year in January, I had it documented in my journal that this was the year that I was getting separated and I was getting divorced. Like, this is not my person. I was not living my best self. I did not like who I was around him. And
Mm.
I had tried with him. We've been together almost 10 years at this point
Mm.
and married for a few, but I was beating my head against the wall. So I knew I was done and I was just getting all my ducks
Mhm.
in a row. So, yes, we were still together when Joey contacted me. In fact, I told my ex that I got this message from Joey. Now, this is a kicker.
Mhm.
Told him, and I said, "Hey, I just got this message. My ex-boyfriend, my high school sweetheart, is going to be in town, wants to take me to lunch." And I didn't say anything. And he's like, "Well, you need to go. You need to make him eat his heart out." And I was like,
Oh, wow.
"Well, that just sealed the deal." So,
Yeah, like, what husband says that?
what husband says that? Like, there was not even a pause in his response of like, "Well,
Mm.
that's weird," or "I am not comfortable with that." He just
Or
was
I'll go with you. Yeah.
not even like, "Oh, can I meet him?" Like, nothing, nothing. So
Mhm.
that was just a little taste of what that life was like. But so we had lunch, and he got to the restaurant first, and then I walked in, and when our eyes met,
Mm.
all the feelings came flooding through my body. It was so intense. And then he gave me a big hug. Oh, it was just wild. And I wore my wedding ring that day to
Mhm.
lunch because I felt, I had nothing to hide, nothing to lose, nothing. Like, this is my
Mhm.
life. This is who I am. This is where I'm at. And so we had a phenomenal lunch. Just talked
Mhm.
about real superficial things. Um, Heard about the girls and his career and what I had
Mhm.
been doing. And then he said, "Well, I need to go shower and maybe take a little rest. I was up early. Can I take you to dinner?" And I was like,
Mm.
"Sure, yes." So we went separate ways and then met back up for dinner. Actually, I
Mhm.
picked him up at his hotel down on the strip, and then we went to dinner, and we closed the Mexican food place down. Like, they had to
Oh,
kick
wow.
us out. We were there for almost 4 hours. It was
Wow.
such the conversation was had such intensity, so heartfelt, and he asked me, "Well, you say you're in this situation right now. Why are you wearing your
Mhm.
ring?" And I said, "Well, I'm just want to be honest with you. I am a married woman. Like, but
Mhm.
as I told you, I've got plans and it has nothing to do with you. I don't want you to feel any pressure, because I don't want to scare him away."
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
we ended the evening on a very platonic note, and I
Mhm.
heard from him later in the week, and I heard from him about once a week till the rest of the year. And
Wow.
in that time, I had gotten
That
separated.
was that was in August, you said?
That started, yes, he contacted me in August. We met up early September.
Okay.
So during that time, I had separated. I had filed for divorce, and
Mhm.
my ex never asked anything about that lunch or dinner. He knew I did both.
Wow. Wow.
Never accused me or asked, "Why are you leaving me? Is it because of this
Mm.
person?" It was very interesting. Um, a real roller coaster.
Well,
So
I think it's interesting too, you've told me before that you didn't even take his name when
no.
you got
Oh,
married.
my ex-husband, no. I did not take his name. We got married at the Justice of the Peace in a city where he was working as a firefighter. Like, family
Mhm.
wasn't involved. He was just we've been engaged for several years prior. I knew it was not the right relationship, Dawn.
Mhm.
I was just in a really bad place. I was in my later 30s. I hadn't had a child at that point. I did not
Mhm.
know that I couldn't have children until, oh gosh, it was 5 years later. I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis and had a
Mm.
major surgery. So I just couldn't have children at an older age, which is a blessing in disguise, as we know, because he wasn't the right person to have a child with. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, it was something that I he just kind of pressured me, and he, again, was a firefighter and felt like something was gonna happen to him on the job and wanted to make sure that I'd be taken care of and I could help take care of his
Mhm.
child who was at that time in high school. She and I were close. We all lived in the same home together. So it ended up getting nasty like most divorces do, but nothing
Mhm.
handle. And during that time, Joey and I were in contact. In fact, I saw him a few times, and he was
Mhm.
so supportive. And during COVID, when the nation shut down, the world shut down, the following year, I spent time up in Joey's home on Bay Bridge Island, and I was in the thick of my mess, and he would do the littlest things, bring me coffee in the morning. He was like, "Why don't maybe you should go for a walk on the walking trail through the forest, go spend some time by yourself."
Mhm.
And I was so impressed by how in tune he was. Come to find out, he had done a lot of work on himself after his divorce of 20
Mhm.
years, and he waited 6 years to contact me because he was not ready.
Wow.
He knew he wasn't ready, and he knew that I was his person and that we would end
Mhm.
our life together. So he wanted to make sure to protect me and himself.
Mhm.
He was ready. So he was so supportive of me just taking time every day while I was staying in his home. It just made me fall deeper in love with him. It just
Mm.
really did, because it was what I needed. I was what I needed. So
I think that's really important to have a spouse that knows you, knows how to take care of you, and, um, I don't meets I wanna say meets your needs, and
Meet your
the
needs,
it it
and
it's just yeah, you become such a priority.
yeah,
Yeah.
and to be honest with you, I never had that.
Mhm.
I think I had a real bad picker. You know, a bad picker, and I was choosing these men that were unavailable
Mhm.
emotionally and kept going down that path, unavailable in different ways, but still unavailable, and never gave
Mhm.
myself the opportunity to get known or voice what I needed. But I didn't ever need to do that with Joey.
Mhm.
He just knew me that well, and we truly, he and I truly have soul ties because of
Mhm.
what we went through as younger kids, being each other's first loves. That is just a
Mhm.
love you never forget.
Mhm.
You never forget. So that same year, my divorce was final, and Joey was like, "Well, let's move forward. Like, what are we doing? We're adults. We know what we want. We want to be with each other.
Mhm.
How do we
Let's not waste any time.
how do we make this work?" He's like, "I'm ready," and I was like, "Whoa, okay, okay, here we go." I said, "Well, I'm not quite ready to move full time to Washington State. Um,
Mhm.
I had a life here in Nevada, and I loved it, and I was
Mhm.
afraid of all those changes." So, bless his heart, he said, "Well, let's rent a house, and I will come to you, and I can work remotely because his office is in Seattle, still is in Seattle. I can
Mhm.
work remotely, so let's try that. Let's rent a house for a year, and we can decide what we want to do after that." So, fast forward, 6.5 years later, we are now in our third home and living the best life with one another.
Alright.
It's
Alright.
it's been great. Yeah.
Okay,
Blessing.
well, in just a second, I wanna hear about the proposal. So, hey, you know what? I need your help. Would you please follow our podcast and give it a 5-star rating or write a review? You see, there's just not that many love story podcasts out there, so we're kind of building a new genre. And that's where you come in. Your interaction with us really helps drive the algorithm that shows our podcast to other people. Besides that, just like hearing from you. So write us a note in the comment section of this episode, because your participation helps us reach more listeners and it keeps the love stories coming. Thank you. Alrighty. So now it's time to hear about the proposal.
The
It's
proposal.
always something that,
People
sparks
love it.
something in a
It
gal. Yeah.
it does, it truly does. And from the moment we started seeing each other again, we knew that we were gonna
Hmm.
move forward to marriage. Um,
Hmm.
so we were up on Bainbridge one summer, and cute little town, and there is this woman that is just a beautiful, excuse me, very artistic jeweler,
Hmm.
downtown. So it was Joey's suggestion that we go in and see her because he
Hmm.
wanted her to make something that I designed. And I was like, that was the biggest shock of them all, because that kind of came out of the blue. Because
Hmm.
he brought up the fact of, "Hey, I think it's time to go see her." And we hadn't even talked about
Yeah.
it. We were just in the midst of
Oh.
vacation, in a sense. So we went down and sat with her and had a great time and designed something beautiful. And it was going to be ready in about 4 weeks. So we were going to stay up there
Hmm.
until it's ready. And then I thought, okay, he started talking about planning a trip. "Let's plan a trip when we get back to Nevada. Let's plan." And I go, okay. And I'm thinking in my mind, okay, it's going to be the proposal trip. Um,
Hmm.
so let's do it.
Know what I love too? The fact that he said, I'll have you design it."
Yeah.
Because that again is that support of
Mhm.
you're creative and I appreciate your creativity and I'm gonna support it and give you the space to create
To create and
something
design
beautiful. I
something.
love that.
He also said, he's like, "Babe, you're the one wearing it. I look at
Yeah.
it every day, but you're wearing it. So I want you just
Mhm.
just be in love." And I
Yeah.
thought, well, that's amazing.
Yes,
You know,
that's the right guy for you.
he really never ceases to amaze me. And,
Mhm.
so that's a lot of fun. So here we are
Sorry. Mhm.
going through the summer and knowing that this ring wasn't going to be ready for a little while. And I was just really excited. I could barely even stand myself because I just kept looking at the mock-ups on my phone. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so. And so we had some friends over one night. We had a barbecue in
Mhm.
the house up there, and it was late. They were, I think, going to crash out, stay over. So we had actually gone up to bed, and I was on my computer in bed, and he got in bed next to me, and he goes, "Honey, your computer light's bothering me. Can you shut it down?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, of course." No, I wasn't doing anything important, so I shut my computer down, put it away, laid down next to him, and I heard him start to kind of sniffle, and then yeah, and I said, I caught my attention. I don't think I said anything, and he just said, "I love you so much, and I've always loved you." And he said, "This wasn't exactly what I was planning, but now's the time. Will you marry me?"
Oh,
And then I feel
heart
my
was just
feelings,
doing it.
'cause we're in the dark. We're in the dark. So he's feeling for me, and he grabs my hand, and then I feel something go down my finger, and I thought it was like a rubber band. And I said, "Of course, yes, I will marry you. I'd be so happy to marry you and be your wife." And I gave him a big kiss, and I go, "But get your phone. What is this on my finger?" So I get his phone out, the flashlight, and it was one of those workout bands. It was like baby. It was cute. He's like, "The ring's not here yet. I got these as like a backup, and I just felt the moment was right. So I just didn't
Mhm.
want to pass it by." So we got engaged that.
Oh.
And then the next day we went over to his parents' house, and I walk in with my finger with my pink, pink rubber band on. Uh-oh, I'm frozen. Can you see me?
There you go. Okay.
With my pink band, and his mom grabs my hand and says, "Joseph, what's this?" It was really funny, and we're like, "Oh, well, the one that we want is not made yet," but she knew. But they embraced me, his parents embraced
Mhm.
me, and um, we have a great relationship, all of us, and
Oh,
so that
I
was our
love that.
proposal. So then once we picked up the ring, I just
Mhm.
wore it, and that was that. We actually went to sushi, the night we got home from our RV trip, and had my ring on, and I had no makeup on, and we were tired. We'd been traveling all day, and we took this really funny picture. It's so funny, and that was our announcement to our friends and family that we got engaged. It was like me like this, and then Joey made this face, and it was like announcing to the world that we did this thing, and we're moving on
Oh,
together. So it was really
maybe
sweet.
we'll have to put that up on our website.
That would be really cute. I will find that. I really funny. But anyway, that is our love story, Dawn. And
Well, we're not quite yet.
I know we're not quite done, but we do continue to grow every day. Like
Yes.
it's a pleasure.
Yes. Well, we have 2 years now,
Hmm.
almost 2 years. Well, we
Oh,
just
2 years.
celebrated 2
Yes,
years. We
we
just
did
celebrated 2
October.
years.
Yes, yes, 2 years
Okay.
October. Since we've been
So tell us
married.
about your wedding.
Oh, the wedding was fantastic. You know, we wanted people there that
Mhm.
meant so much to us. And, getting married as adults, being older,
Mhm.
later in life, being older, it's kind of a tricky thing. But he had never had a big wedding, and I had my first wedding was a pretty big wedding, but that was umpteen
Mhm.
years ago. So we were down. We were like, let's plan something really nice. We did it here
Mhm.
in town. 130 of our closest family and friends came,
Mhm.
and it was just the most perfect day, even though it was the windiest day on record. We got inside instead of outside, but it all worked out. But we would both admit that our most favorite part of the day
Mhm.
was early that morning.
Mhm.
We got dressed, clean hair, no makeup, nothing. And we went down to the Justice of the Peace.
Mhm.
And you, Dawn, remember quite well, you and your
I do.
both your kids and Nanny and your husband performed our ceremony. Uh,
Mhm.
and it was just magical. Jean had recorded the entire thing for us, and we watch it regularly. We
Oh, do
just
you?
we do. We watch it regularly, and we can't watch it without a tear going down our face.
Oh, when Joey started to crack his voice cracking and the tears, oh, it was over then. It
He
was
went
over.
he was raw that day, and I love
Uh-huh.
seeing him because I don't see that often enough
Yeah.
in my mind,
Mhm.
being the man he is. But that was just such a sweet, sweet moment we will never forget.
Mhm.
We were just so blessed that that all worked out that way, and we were
Oh,
able
yeah.
to then have our ceremony later that night. Everybody thought we were
Mhm.
getting married. We were already married. Um, did perform a beautiful
Shh,
ceremony as
shh.
well. I know,
The
but
Prushkovskis knew, but shh.
it's possible, and probably my parents, but they didn't say anything to anybody. But it was a magical day, best
Mm.
day ever. Third time's a charm, and I truly believe that. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful, that's wonderful. So, any advice for people who are looking for love or
It's
are
funny.
struggling with relationships, finding that one?
Patience is a virtue.
Mhm.
That's definitely number one because I was definitely patient 28 years. And we laugh because we think if we would have stayed together after high school or such and such, things would have been way different. We probably would not
Mhm.
have made it. Who knows? He was such a different person. He wouldn't have his beautiful children, and that would just
Mhm.
disastrous. So, patience, timing is huge. I
Mhm.
wouldn't advise to go look up your first love because I know not all of those are something you'd want back in your life, but
Mhm.
just being true to yourself and being patient and not settling. Um,
Mhm.
don't be afraid to take risks.
Yeah,
Love is a risk. We know that, Dawn.
it
It's
is.
open your heart. It's a challenge. Sometimes it's a daily challenge, but
Mhm.
in the overall things, as long as it's what you want, go for it.
Okay. Anything else that you'd like to share? Anything that's you've learned through this journey or anything?
Oh my gosh, this journey, I think everybody looks back and thinks, "Oh, I should have done that differently. Should have done that differently." And
Mhm.
I don't want to live with regrets. But yes, there are some things that I should have done differently. But I tell you, I feel like I have come full circle. My life has come full circle. Um, I actually, for the first time in my life, I can see the future. I can see
Mm.
path that we're
Mhm.
moving towards, where before I was just more in a survival mode and I wasn't able to see that. So that really, when you find the right love,
Mhm.
that is just so peaceful.
Mhm.
Know that everything is where it's supposed to be, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
It's like, I don't know, I kinda like for me, after a heartbreak, it seems like there's a hole in your heart, and
yes,
you're trying to fill that hole,
yes,
and,
yes,
you gotta wait for the right one.
you do because anybody can take up that space,
Mhm.
but it's not the right energy for you. It's not the
Yeah.
right, you're not the right person for you, and then it just makes you kind of have to start over and
Yep.
makes you sit back
And
a little bit. But
I love that Joey lets you be you. I love that my husband lets me be me
yes, and we let
and
them be
support
them.
me.
We
Oh,
let them be
absolutely.
them. We just we love them for who they are, and
Mhm.
um, you
Pretty
know,
amazing, guys.
I learned over this relationship as well is that you definitely need to be a whole person,
Mhm.
and for you to be able to bring to the table with your partner, as long as you're both whole and you bring to the table, it's just that much more
Mhm.
magical. Um,
Yeah.
kind of funny. I have this. I pulled out my senior year yearbook from high
Uh-huh.
school, and there's a picture of Joe right here. Here he is, right here.
Oh, look at him. He's so
He,
cute.
yeah, he had a lot of hair, and he wrote me this really sweet message. Now, mind you,
Oh,
we didn't
what
talk.
does it say?
I'm going to read it to you. We did not talk our
Okay.
senior year, but I needed him to write me something in my yearbook. So I hunted him
Mhm.
down and he wrote, Amanda, it's been a fun 3 years, though I didn't always show it. I did care. Take care of yourself. Love, Joey.
Oh.
And come to find out, once we got back together, the reason why he disappeared out of my life that first time around was that he couldn't handle it. He was so
Mhm.
heartbroken. He didn't know how to face me. He was ashamed. But he also felt like that I didn't give him a choice.
Mhm.
And I think he was a little resentful about that. He just didn't know how to convey those feelings or manage those feelings or anything. So he
He was
just
still
thought
a kid.
he was a little kid. We both were little kids,
Mhm.
little kids. But that says a lot to me. I did care. I mean,
Yeah.
those were probably the most words that he said to me.
Your whole senior year?
Exactly. Seriously, I mean, he was not a talker, he was a grunter back then, it was really sweet. Mhm, mm, yeah, mhm. I'm like, "Okay." But we've come full circle, and it's been such a wild ride,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't change it for anything, Dawn, because our experiences, our past experiences have made us who we are today, the people that we
Mhm.
love and respect, and that's really important.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, thank you very much for being open and transparent and sharing all of this with us. It's a beautiful story.
Thank
It
you.
does have a lot of twists and turns
Hard
and
twists and turns and heartbreak, really hard, a little traumatic.
yeah, but that's what makes it your incredible story.
Our story. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. I don't talk about some of that stuff very often, and I
Mhm.
haven't in a very long time, but it actually feels good to share it and to
Mhm.
reflect on the big picture of how far we've come.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see you in person.
I'll see you soon. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Please connect with us and share your comments about this episode on YouTube, Spotify, or whatever streaming platform you use. We want you to become a part of the conversation. So please go to our website, unexpectedlovestories.com, and share your love story with us. You can find a link to it in our episode guide. And while you're there, check out the photos of couples from each episode. We'd love you to share our podcast with your family and friends so that they can enjoy these stories as well. Unexpected Love Stories can be found on all their favorite podcast platforms.